It's Friday night, April 15th, 1996. And I've started my regular routine, which is opening a bottle of Côte d'Aron wine and eagerly awaiting the PBS movie that starts at 10 p.m. I have an exciting life, I know. And the movie comes on, and it's called Lili from 1953, which is a bizarre, crazy film starring Leslie Caron. Leslie Caron is a 15 or 16-year-old French girl whose father suddenly dies, and she is wearing her adorable little French hat and carrying a little suitcase and wandering around a carnival not knowing what to do. And I start crying, like, not thinking this is weird, that this 15-year-old girl is just wandering around in 1953 looking for some guidance. And she finds this psychopathic puppet master who's unable to communicate to her. Now, this is, of course, my telling of the story from today's point of view. In 1953, this seemed pretty normal, where a 15-year-old girl is gonna go around like, my dad's dead, and I don't know what to do, and can you help me? And this puppet master, who must have been 35 or 40, quite handsome, who couldn't speak to her without using little marionettes that were quite rude, as the French marionettes are known to be. And somehow they fall madly in love, and he whisks her away to a life of carnival bliss. And I'm still crying. So the movie ends, and the wine's gone, and I doze off, and I get the phone call at 6 a.m. in the morning in Seattle, Washington, that nobody wants at 6 a.m. That is, you know, your father has just died. And I was like, what? My dad he's just died? Seems impossible. And I suddenly am this 15-year-old girl, like, lost. And I was lucky that my sisters were also in Seattle, and one married to him, or engaged to a Microsoft millionaire who bought the airline tickets and gathered us up and sent us down to St. Petersburg, Florida, where we had to deal with all those things that happen with sudden death. And sudden death is a phrase I use in sports, and it has no meaning to me at that moment until it really happens. And when sudden death happens, you are in another world, wandering around a carnival of events that seem unreal, and puppet masters seem like a safe answer. And my father was a huge man, physically gigantic, 6'5" and nearly 500 pounds. And we hear the story from his breakfast club of retired AA Friends of Bill, the group that he met with every morning, and the ones that found him suddenly that died. He had an aortic, it was a gastronomic aneurysm. So it exploded in his belly, and he died suddenly. It was really quick, and he didn't know, or that's what they tell me, and I like to believe that it was quick and not as painful as I imagine when I've had a bad gas pain. And I hope that it was an easy transition. And it happened on his birthday, which was April 16th. So my dad and his poker buddies played cards at his house in the garage. And that was a really cool thing about my dad. He loved playing cards. He loved sponsoring people in AA. And he was a great sponsor. He was a great listener. He was always there for you if you ever needed anything. If you thought about a drink, my father was there. So, about a day and a half passed after we had come to his home in St. Pete, and we're trying to figure out what to do. And luckily, he had decided to be buried at sea, which was really wonderful. So it was all taken care of. That was all taken care of. And we had this magnificent AA meeting of a memorial for him. And as I remember it, it seems like there were 1,000 people there. And everybody just came up and just said the most amazing stories about my father and how they helped him. And after the memorial, my sisters and I went back to the house and were trying to figure out what to do with this and that. We had about a week to kind of figure out someone's life and make those arrangements of possessions, of things that we keep that seemed so unnecessary. And my father's poker friends came to the door, just hands on their hearts, hats down, and they wouldn't step in the house, but they were all together, there were 7 of them, and they just said, "Girls, we're really sorry, we're awfully sorry about your dad." And we were like, yeah, he was really something. And then there was an awkward pause. And then one nudged the one in the front and he said, "You know, we all paid for that poker table." And we just started laughing so hard because that's exactly what my dad would have done. He would have shown up and been the top of the line and said, "Listen, we all chipped in about $100 for that table. What are they going to do with it? Those girls from Seattle, what are they going to do with this table? I don't know. The chips, we bought the chips too, and the cards, and everything was out there." And they came in like in this swift move. We were like, of course, take it. And they scooted it all out. And it was the fastest clear out of a card room you ever saw. Like, they took everything, the glassware, the mugs, the coffee cups, the whole bit. It was really great. And it was the best thing we ever remembered about with our father. So anyway, thank you.